When I was 16, I was heading into my senior year of high school, and I had this thought of what are all of the high school things that I might regret if I don't do them. And so I set out to do them. One little one was like, I took myself to the prom and I wore a black dress, and I'd never worn black before. So there were various things that played out over that year. But one of the things heading into that year was I had never done sports in a school level. And I had done some sports like at camp and things like that. And I was always deemed a little too aggressive. So I thought, all right, what is a sport I could do where I won't necessarily hurt anyone? So I thought I could do track. Why not? You can just jump in and do track your senior year of high school, right? So I showed up. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, what I was planning, what I was thinking about. I just showed up for tryouts and met the coach and told her that I wanted to do track. And she asked me, how my running was or whatever. And I was like, well, I don't run. And she's like, okay. So she was like, well, the first thing then is for you to go out and run a mile. So do 4 laps around the track and I'll time you. So I go out and I run and I come back and I'm dying, I'm panting. And she was like, okay, that was a 13-minute mile. You could just about walk that at that speed. And I was like, I know I'm not a great runner, but I really want to do sports. And what I can promise you is that I'll just continue to show up. I'm not in this for anything to win or anything like that, but I'm here to have this experience. And I'm afraid this might be my last opportunity to have an experience like this. So I showed her my heart and my commitment. And I said, and I'm willing, obviously willing to improve, I'll do the things that you tell me to do. And, side note, I was deemed a chunky kid, so I didn't have an athletic body. I now think of myself as very athletic because I have good muscle tone. And I had done some things as a kid. Like I had played tennis and, um, a little bit of horseback riding at camp, done some things. Like it's not like I just sat around on the couch, but I was always deemed chunky and heavy. And so the coach had a lot of raw material to work with. So when I show up to practice, here's the challenge about starting a sport your senior year is everyone has been doing this sport together through most of junior high and high school. I transferred into this school 2 years earlier, so this was just my third year at the school. It's not that people didn't know me or know my spirit. I was very involved in lots of things like dance and stuff like that, and I even did step dance and some African dance and just all kinds of things. And then, I'm a Gemini, so I was involved in a lot of different things, a lot of spirit things and everything. But you don't just roll into track and like people are sizing you up. Like, who are you? Who do you think you are? And so there was a standoff, and there was a standoff for quite a while. And it was important, I think, when everybody realized I'm not out to beat them. There's no way I'm going to beat you at the thing that you've been doing for, most of your life, and you're only 16 years old. Like you were good at that thing. I'm not here to do hurdles or try to do all of these different things. I'm not here to be good. And that ended up being a really interesting coaching challenge for the coach and for the team is what do you do with somebody who wants to show up and try something new and isn't there to necessarily be good? How do you get the other people on the team to support that person and cheer them on with what their goals are? How do we support the idea of it's okay to try something and to want to do it and to not be good at it, but to show up and to have that spirit that that person isn't dragging the team down, that you're not taking points away from the team when you participate in the meet because you are adding something else. And these girls couldn't see that. They're extremely competitive. They even went to like state and national levels. Like we had an extremely athletic and talented team. And I would show up and I would cheer them on. And they just didn't understand me, didn't know why I was there. So that's the way life is a lot of times, unfortunately. But you have to find it in yourself. And I did. I just kept showing up. I kept doing the things the coach suggested to me, trying to get my speed better, learning to run with crackers, so I'm not gripping my hands, and just doing all types of different things. And I just ended up being the distance runner for the team, the one who ran the mile and always came in last, like pretty much always came in last. So as the season progressed, though, there is something to dedication and commitment. Things do start changing, times do start going down, level of fitness goes up, and you get a little bit more comfortable with the teammates, like whatever their energy is, everyone is just kind of in their own little bubble. I'm off doing my own training, they're doing their own training, and if I can cheer them on in between my training, that's fine. But most of the time I'm doing something that who's ever going to cheer for someone like, yeah, you finished your third lap, and so no big deal. Like there's just that time where you're just showing up and committing to it, showing up and committing to it. And every once in a while doing a track meet, and it is always interesting. So you go and you run, and when you show up for an event, people are cheering you on, you have competition, you run a little faster, you show up a little harder. And, the coach is like, see, you do have it in you, let's start working with that. And so you start pushing yourself. She starts pushing me to try to dig a little bit deeper. And at one point during the year, we have a track meet that is close to home. We're not having to drive too far to it. And I decide to invite my mom. I mean, at this point, people know that I'm running track because I'm going to all of the practices and everything, but I don't really talk that much about it because it's just something that I want to do. There's not a goal. I'm not like, oh, come cheer me on while I go win, or, or like I'm competing, I'm showing up as my best. It's like, no, I'm just doing this thing for myself. So I didn't really invite friends or anything like that. And I decided to invite my mom to this meet. And at this meet, we decide that I am going to run the 2 mile. And there are, I think, seven competitors, maybe 8. And, we all have a similar body type. We're the chunkier types. I mean, there's probably, I can't remember everybody, but there's maybe a few people who come in first and second who I just don't even think about because I'm just out there just running laps. Can't even keep track of the laps, just sort of set a pace and I just go at that pace and I don't change that pace. I'm just going at it. And, and there's other things going on. People are just talking, buying snacks or whatever, because it's pretty boring, like after maybe 3 laps and, there's some people have maybe already even won and set their placements and everything. It's just waiting for those of us who are really at the back of the pack to just keep running circles and no positions are changing. I am like either last or next to last, And so just trucking, dying, breathing, just trying to be in it and not tune into all of the distractions around, just run my own game, be in my own place. And I come up and I'm relieved to know, okay, I'm heading into my last lap. And, when you're going around a track, you kind of cross this line and you're at halfway of a straight point and then you go around a curve and then you have a long straight along the back. And as I'm doing that last lap and I'm coming around that curve and I'm heading into that long straight, I realize, I still have some juice in me and I can see a couple people along the track. So I just start picking up my pace and I think, I wonder if I can catch those people. I wonder if I could pass them. And I'm just, just slowly picking up my pace, gaining speed. And just kind of feeling this energy within me. And I start hitting that last curve and I literally just picture myself being a train, like, okay, let the wheels go. And, once the momentum's going and you have that weight behind you, you can really just pick up some speed, use the curve, start whipping around. And by this point, a few people in the stands are taking notice. Definitely my team is taking notice. My coach is taking notice. There's a different type of energy. People are going, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Because I pass one person and then I see there's another girl and she's not that far ahead of me and I can pass her. And there's one more person and I go all out once I turn into that locomotive and go around that corner. I just have this last little stretch. And now everyone's going, oh my gosh. And the girl in front of me thinks they're cheering for me because I'm finally making it to the finish line. They don't know. She doesn't know that I'm coming up right behind her. And at that point, when you've been going at that level, she didn't have anything else to give. And for some reason, I did. I had more to give. And so I run, I pass her, I cross the finish line. I actually get 5th place. That actually counts as a place at a meet. And I was like, woohoo, and it was so funny because actually my team showed up for me. They were so excited. My coach was like, where did that come from? Like, that's what I want. Where was that? Where has that been? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know where that's been, where that came from. And my team was finally like, yes, oh my God, we see that you got it in you. You did this. And it felt so good. I was on such a high, like, oh my gosh, even though it was 5th place, I was like, that was the best 5th place ever. It was amazing. And I look up into the stands to kind of look for my mom. I knew where she had been sitting. And I see her get up and she just leaves. She's leaving. She can't even come say hi to me. So, I was kind of crushed. I had the feeling of what was going on. We had a really tough relationship for many years and, thought we were getting to a better place. I mean, we were in a better place. But 2 years before, I had been a juvenile delinquent. And this isn't just any juvenile delinquency. I mean, this resulted in me getting arrested more than once. And eventually my mom decided to disown me. And so she disowned me for a year. I went into the custody of the state. And in that time, I spent time in juvie. Then I had to go to a mental institution. And then eventually I went into some foster care programs so that I could finish out school. I actually stayed in school that whole time because school was my refuge. It was actually my way out. Aside from being a little bit rebellious there for a year. And and then at the end of that time, we went back to court and I had to prove myself and she had to decide whether or not she would take me back. I had become a piece of property and the state owned me, and whether or not she would own me again and choose to be my parent. And we decided to work it out. I kind of vowed to be the perfect girl, do all of the things that I can do to keep the house clean and keep peace and keep everybody happy and to get A's and B's in school and all of those types of things. And, I knew I didn't have an outlet through rebellion that hadn't paid off very well for me. So I just made myself in small, perfect, in a box. I mean, I did a lot of things though in school. That, like I said, school was my outlet of like, okay, yeah, I'll participate in this thing. I'll join that group. Just to be seen in some other way and to feel like I could have creative expression. Someone could see me shine. I could show up really powerfully, like in dance, or I could even just show up and not be that good at something, but be supported, like in track. And so, I just remember seeing her get up and walk away. And I pretty much knew, and she told me later that night that she was just so embarrassed, just embarrassed. She was wondering why I even invited her there. She was embarrassed that, I wasn't a good runner. I wasn't a star. How, sad it is that I'm coming in 5th place and everybody's happy for me. So that means that's the best that I've done. And it was, it was heart-wrenching for me. But I couldn't focus on that because for me, that 5th place, finding that new area within myself was a game changer for me. It helped me get through life. It showed me, I already knew I was a survivor from stuff I'd been through when I was 14 and some other things in my childhood. But this was a different type of thing. It was showing up in a different type of strength, finding that new well of reserves that I could call on, where I was showing up just for myself. I was doing something. Yes, in a way I was, trying to beat competitors by using them as guideposts as I was navigating the track, but it wasn't about beating them. I wasn't trying to be better than them. I was trying to be better than I had shown up before, to see if I had more to give and more to offer. And the interesting thing is what came of all of that by the end of senior year. I mean, that was my most exciting moment in track. It just went on, just returned to continuing to show up to practice and meets and just see, could I explore that space a little bit more. There was a lot more respect from my teammates at that point, and they realized how much I did show up for them in their glory, that they could show up for me in my type of strength. It may not be a winning strength, but it had this level of commitment to it where I was showing up for myself, that I didn't have a whole bunch of people cheering me on because I was great. I was just showing up for myself because I wanted to live life this way. I wanted to have this experience. I wanted to see what making this type of commitment would do for me as a person. And so there was a little bit more of a sense of camaraderie heading into the end of the year. But this was also a trying time for me as we finished up senior year. I wanted to get out from my house, and luckily I was accepted into college. So I went immediately to college, and I went as early as I possibly could, um, just so that I could be out from under whatever dynamic my mom and I had between the two of us. I'm not putting it on her. It was definitely a dynamic between the two of us of struggling, and it helped our relationship a lot to not live together anymore. But by the end of senior year, the thing that was so interesting was, the coach calculates stuff for everyone of their wins and their points and all of that. And that's how you decide if you get a varsity letter. And most of these other girls had already received letters, they were winning all of the time and everything. But I had gotten enough points to get a varsity letter. And I didn't win, but sometimes there weren't as many competitors. So maybe I would get third place because there were only 3 people running and things like that. But still, like I said, that 5th place win was the best for me because that's where I really showed up. I actually decided to never pick up that varsity letter because I knew I was moving on to a different type of life. And I wanted to carry that piece with me, but I didn't need that actual memento of a jacket or anything. I wanted to leave a lot of my childhood and my high school years behind me because they were just so shadowed by what had happened at my previous high school. And I was going to a college that was like 7 states away and never planned to even come back to this place, which I visited, but I haven't gone back there. But I just wanted to share that story with you in that sense of how you can look through your past and find different stories that can show you the strength that you have, the resilience that you have, those moments when you chose to not be a victim, and even those moments where no one was showing up for you but you. Maybe you had a coach like I had who was just trying to work with the raw material, but she didn't think I had any super great potential. She was just willing because I was willing to commit. She was like, okay, if you'll show up, I'll coach you. There was a slight resignation to it. But I like to think that I was this great example for people of what coaching can do. Is it's not just reserved for the great ones, It can help unlock different parts of ourselves so that we can show up for ourselves, because it is rare to be one of the shining stars and everybody's cheering you on and lifting you up. I hope everyone gets some type of experience like that in their life, whether it's just from a lover, a child, a pet, something like that. But to know that not to have that expectation, it just might not happen, but you can do it for yourself. You can show up for yourself, and don't keep yourself from having these experiences and trying new things, because you do learn so much about yourself. You learn what you're made of, and don't take on other people's expectations that you'll only do something because you're good at it. You'll only do something because you'll win. Do it for some other reason, for the joy to learn about yourself, just to see if you simply can. Can I do this thing? It's a huge confidence booster. We think confidence comes so much from winning and doing great things, but it actually comes from showing up from those quiet places where there was just commitment to yourself, commitment to showing up, there was consistency, all of those types of things. So, those are the messages I want to leave with you today. Thank you for tuning in. It's always actually a vulnerable time in my life to share. But even I can call in that story of that moment in track. And even now, as I'm actually learning to run again, and I wish I could run a 13-minute mile, I can call up that energy of what it was to feel like that locomotive, see those other people in front of me, hear the crowd, and just to have those things to call on. We don't have those opportunities that much in life, but you can make those opportunities. And when they show up, take advantage of them. Go in, just go all in and remain curious. Just see what comes of it and have fun trying. Thank you guys. Have a great day.